I'm Eric Sierfoss Miller, local judge. With me today is Jacob Corwin, and we're going to be talking about Dredge. That's kind of cool. So talk to me, what makes Dredge like Dredge?
Well, that would be Dredge. The mechanic printed an original Ravnica, which allows you to replace your draw step by putting a number of cards from the top of your library into your graveyard, and that number is indicated on each individual card.
All right, well, neat. What makes this deck powerful, I guess, right now in Modern? Why would we want to play this over other decks?
So the reason to play Dredge in Modern is that it's downright degenerate when it comes to how the deck functions based off how Magic normally is played.
Okay.
Usually when you can cheat on mana costs in any format, it's considered a very powerful thing, and that's all this deck does.
All right, well, let's start off. We'll look at the deck. So up here, I'm seeing Shriekhorn, Faithless Looting, and Cathartic Return.
Reunion.
Reunion? I can't read upside down. I'm an idiot. All right. So let's talk about these three cards first. What do these do for you?
So all three of those cards allow me to get my engine started. So the first part that you need to do when you start playing this deck is you need to get some cards in your graveyard. Because if you don't have anything in your graveyard, you have nothing to dredge. If you have nothing to dredge, you can't find your payoff. If you can't find your payoff, you can't win the game.
Okay. So these are all very efficient ways. Faithless Looting, obviously you draw 2, discard 2.
Yep.
This one you discard as a cost.
Yes. Allowing it to discard as cost allows you to put cards in your hand into the graveyard and then dredge those cards that you just discarded back into your hand. It's also the most resilient against counter magic because although you don't get to dredge after doing that, you still do get to put the cards from your hand into your graveyard on one of your slower draws.
Mm-hmm. And then Shriekhorn, what does this do?
It enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it, and you can tap it and remove a charge counter to make target player put the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard.
And you just target yourself and then put some stuff into your yard.
Yeah, Shriekhorn is your best opening play because it allows you to see the most cards before your second turn.
Okay.
So you can activate it on your opponent's end of second main phase off your first turn, and then in your upkeep on your second turn.
Okay, so that's 4 cards as opposed to these 2 and 3.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, I had not personally seen this yet, so I was like, oh, that's pretty weak compared to what you're doing over here, but no, that's actually very strong.
It's the strongest on turn 1.
Okay. So then let's move over here to the Dredgers, it looks like.
Yep.
So what do we got here?
That's Stinkweed Imp. He's a 3-mana 1/2 flyer. He has a pseudo Death Touch ability that's actually a triggered ability that only works when it's dealing combat damage.
Okay. So it has, whenever this creature deals combat damage, destroy that creature?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have Golgari Thug.
Golgari Thug is one of the more convoluted dredgers, so it has Dredge 4, but the triggered ability it has when it actually dies after you've cast it in it as jump block or however means it takes to get into the graveyard, you may put a creature from your graveyard on top of your library.
Okay. And why would we want to do that? Or do we want to do that?
We do want to do that, but not all the time. It's obviously very hard to set up, and honestly, if the best thing you have to do with your turn is play your 2-mana 1/1, you're probably not looking too hot yourself, you know what I mean?
Fair enough. And then we have the only non-creature dredge card, Life from the Loam.
Life from the Loam is one of the secondary engines of this deck.
Mm-hmm.
So the main engine of the deck is using your discard outlets to get your dredgers into your graveyard, and then when you dredge, you'll flip over some of your payoff cards.
Okay.
But Life from the Loam is kind of its own engine with another one of our payoff cards.
All right.
It combos very nicely with Conflagrate.
Okay.
Conflagrate allows you to, when you flashback, pay red, and discard X cards.
All right.
And then deal X damage divided however you choose on any number of target creatures or players.
Mm-hmm. And Life from the Loam fills your hand with all of these lands to discard to your Conflagrate.
Correct.
All right.
Life from the Loam also allows you to keep lands in your hand to keep on triggering your Bloodghasts.
Okay.
Which in turn returns your Prize Amalgams.
And then so since we're already on the topic, let's start talking about these are all payoff cards down here.
Yeah.
We already talked about Conflag a little bit.
Yep.
So let's move over to this card, the newest card in the deck.
Creeping Chill was a card that I wasn't 100% certain if it was going to make enough waves in this deck. I thought it might be too slow or that might become too inconsistent, but it has just overperformed. It when you put it from your deck into your graveyard, it starts a triggered ability on the card, which is effectively a copy of the card, where each opponent will lose 3 life and you'll gain 3 life. And the wording on that's very, very important. Because its triggered ability can't be countered, and because it says each, it gets around cards like Leyline of Sanctity and Witchbane Orb.
Wow, that's actually, yeah, that's very relevant. So if people are thinking they're safe from these behind like a ley line, this can get through that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So then we have these creatures here, Narcomoeba, Bloodghast, and Prized Amalgam.
Yes.
So talk to me about Prized Amalgam first.
Prized Amalgam, he's the second newest addition to this card as far as printings go. He was printed in Shadows over Innistrad, and whenever a creature comes from my graveyard to play, he comes back at the next end step tapped.
Okay. So then, obviously, the biggest target of that would be either Narcomoeba or Bloodghast?
It would absolutely be Bloodghast. Bloodghast is your most reliable way of bringing back the Prized Amalgam because you can control when you bring your Bloodghast back. Narcomoeba and Creeping Chill are more random. You just kind of have to get lucky, and that'll define.
These are just kind of value-added cards?
Yeah.
Okay. But then Bloodghast, whenever land enters the battlefield, you get to just put it from your graveyard into play tapped?
Untapped.
Untapped.
And if my opponent has 10 or less life, it gains haste.
That's very good. The only downside being that it cannot block.
It cannot block.
But I don't think that's very relevant most of the time anyway.
Sometimes it comes up. One of the more awkward things with this deck is you can bring back your Bloodghast, which will bring back your Prized Amalgam, but Prized Amalgam will be tapped. So against decks like Humans or any other aggressive style deck, you struggle to have blockers in time because a lot of your things either enter tapped, are simply too weak to even put up a fight in the case of Narcomoeba, or just simply can't block in the case of Bloodghast. And that's where you really lean on your Conflagrate to, instead of being this giant fireball, just being like a one-sided board wipe.
Okay, and sometimes you would actually end up casting these guys just... This can actually trade with most creatures.
I've cast way too many Stinkweed Imps in my day to ever think that card is just the Dredger in the deck.
Okay. That's very fascinating. So let's move on to the lands. Pretty standard mana base. You have 7 fetch lands down here. 3 basics.
Yeah.
4 Copperline Gorge. And then let's move over here to your utility lands. So we have 3 Shocks.
Yep.
Now you said Stomping Ground was more important than the Blood Crypt before we started. What's going on there?
So really the only colors that you'll ever need is red and green game 1. Game 1, you need your red mana early in the game to cast your Faithless Lootings and your Cathartic Reunions and to flashback your Conflagrates. But you need your green mana to get the Loam engine going between Loam and Conflagrate, so you need to have enough green sources to where you can cast Loam effectively.
Okay. So then we have Mana Confluence, which just makes mana of any color.
Mana of any color, it does damage you, but since we got Creeping Chill, I was willing to switch out my second Gemstone Mine for one of Mana Confluence, just to have that perfect mana that never goes away.
Okay, and then Gemstone Mine obviously is one of those lands that creates... It has 3 depletion counters on it, or charge counters.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm not 100%
mining counters.
Mining counters.
Why wouldn't it have mining counters?
Of course.
You tap it, you make a mana of any color, and you remove a counter from it. So it makes any color mana 3 times, which usually is a pretty big drawback.
But with Life from the Loam, you can always be bringing that back. That's very fascinating. And then we have Darkmoor Salvage?
Yeah, Darkmoor Salvage is the last Dredger that I play in the deck. It's a land that has Dredge 2. A lot of people don't play it, but I feel like playing it allows you to mitigate your worst draws, which are your one-landers where you have the way to get stuff in the graveyard, but you don't have ways to guarantee yourself hitting more lands. This allows you to just kind of go for it and hope that you can find your second land off of dredging it.
Okay. So then let's move over to the sideboard. So we have a full play set of this Leyline of the Void right here.
Yep. Your worst matchups are decks that are faster than you, and decks that would be faster than me are usually graveyard-based, either in KCI, Storm, Bridgevine, and that card just gets in there against all 3 of them.
Now, why Leyline of the Void over other graveyard hate cards?
So usually when you are evaluating your sideboard, you want cards that tackle a variety of matchups, and Leyline checks that box for me. Being a Faithless Looting deck allows me to get rid of extra copies of Leyline of the Void if I happen to draw them. Being Dredge allows me to, if it's not my opening hand, guarantee I never see it throughout the course of the game. So it doesn't have that drawback that it usually has. Like, well, if you draw a Leyline on turn 5, you didn't actually draw your card. Well, my plan's never to draw this card except in my opening hand.
Do they count?
Yeah. Okay. So, looking down, we have Duress, pretty boilerplate disruption spell. Assassin's Trophy, again, pretty boilerplate disruption.
Yep.
Then we have this Ancient Grudge and Nature's Claim.
So, like a lot of decks in Modern, this is one of the more degenerate, faster aggro decks. So you really just need to have your disruption that fits your opponent's sideboard. So Nature's Claim can come in against decks that have Rest in Peace or their own Leyline of the Voids, whereas Ancient Grudge can come in against decks that you know have either Cage or Relic.
Okay.
If you don't know what your opponent's on, you bring an Assassin's Trophy as just your catch-all.
All right. Then our last two, we have 2 copies of Collective Brutality, and that's actually really cool because that discards cards that you want in the graveyard anyway, doesn't it?
It does. That's one of the first things I looked at when I started playing this deck many times ago.
And then we have Lightning Axe. What does Lightning Axe do?
As an additional cost, you either discard a card or you spend 5 additional mana. So you always
again,
discard
you're
the card.
putting dredgers into your graveyard.
Yes, and then it deals 5 damage to target creature.
That's really good. So that's just in there for large creatures like that are hard to deal with.
Mostly, Lightning Axe is in there for cards like Scavenging Ooze.
That makes a lot of sense.
So usually the way I sideboard is, if it's a creature-based deck that's going to have creatures that disrupt my graveyard, I bring in cards like Lightning Axe. If it's spell-based, I bring in cards like Duress and Collective Brutality. And if it's other permanence-based, I bring in my Nature's Claims, Grudges, or Assassin's Trophies.
Okay, awesome. Do you have any other comments before we get finished up here?
Not at all.
Not at all. All right. Well, this was our deck tech on Dredge. Again, my name is Eric Searfoss Miller.
I'm Jacob Corwin.
And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.